I have highlighted some of the points. Obviously, these are not all the points, but some of the points which we should expect from energy management. Obviously, number one, a license to operate. If there are legal requirements, if there are legal bindings, and if we are not able to fulfill those, then we might be having trouble in operating in the area. Then access to global markets is very important. When we tell the global buyers that we are increasing our renewable energy share and we are reducing coal, for example, reducing our emissions, the international brands, they like to work with these kind of companies, because then they have to do less effort with them and invest less time with them in improving their supply chain. It is also important to maintain competitive advantage, because when we are reducing cost and we are reducing emissions, then we become more competitive. Um, then minimizing repetitive changes to energy mix. If we have a proper management system, we would select our energy mix very, very wisely and strategically, rather than switching from one fuel to another fuel and then another fuel abruptly. Giving you one example, what has happened recently is that global coal prices have increased. And the funny thing is, since the coal prices have increased more than 50%, suddenly the steam cost on coal has also jumped by 50%. In Pakistan, natural gas is also very, very expensive. So if I, for example, speak in Pakistani rupees, the steam cost on natural gas 2 months ago was 3,000 rupees per ton, and on coal it was 2,000 rupees per ton. Because of the coal price increase, the coal price has increased to 3,300 rupees, 3,400 rupees per ton. And the factories have suddenly started to place orders for natural gas boilers. And I was laughing that government is already trying to increase the natural gas prices. So instead of thinking strategically, they have just started jumping off from one boat to another boat, instead of thinking, okay, what will happen if they increase the natural gas prices? So how will then we switch back to which fuel will we switch back to then? Also in winters, we will have natural gas shutdowns. So what will we do? Think about an energy mix on a strategic level, rather than only jumping from one boat to another because one fuel got expensive. Now we need to buy a boiler for second fuel. And when second fuel becomes inexpensive, we switch to fuel number one again. So this is kind of a switch that I see some even some large companies are doing these days. Recently, I conducted a study for Bangladesh as well on renewable energy adoption from biomass. And we also saw that the companies have natural gas boilers as well as biomass boilers. That is because they have um, grid shortages on gas sometimes. Sometimes the gas price increases, availability reduces. That is the time when they switch to biomass. But in Pakistan, the switch is more extensive. There are factories who have installed multiple boilers on multiple fuels. One boiler is only for rice husk. There is another boiler which can run different kind of biomass mixed together. Another boiler which runs on coal. Another boiler which runs on natural gas, and another one even which runs on furnace oil. So they have so many installations because they did not think strategically. So they have blocked a lot of capital into their boilers rather than thinking strategically. So that is very, very important. Then reduction in cost by reducing energy wastages, as you said rightly, that is very important. Then reducing downtime. So if we improve our energy reliability, we can reduce our downtime as well. So rather than switching from one source to another source when we lose a lot of time, we could have one sustainable source which can give us reliability and energy security, as we call it. Then stopping potential losses before they become any big issue. So If we have a management system where we keep on identifying, for example, if we have a condition monitoring system in which we monitor the steam valves or compressed air valves regularly, we will know before a valve starts leaking that this will start leaking. So we can right away stop that line, bypass that line for the time being, take out that valve, repair it, or replace it with a new one put up there. Often we have seen that the factories who do not do condition monitoring of their installations have a lot of losses which they are unaware of. So in April, my company conducted energy audit of a factory where in one production hall, we identified more than 70 big leakages in compressed air system. And that was because they never had done a survey of their compressed air distribution networks. Starting with the top management is obviously very, very important. And I think when we were talking about starting with easy steps or baby steps, we did not mean that we do not start with top management. Obviously, top management is the first contact in the company with whom we should discuss our deliverables and targets. And if top management is not convinced, or if they are not giving time to the energy auditor or energy assessor in the first meeting, you can already tell that this project is not going to be very, very successful. They will have a report from us as energy auditors, but then they will not implement. But then it also depends on what are the needs. Why do they want to have the energy audit? So whenever I receive a query, a requirement from the factories for conducting an energy management system assessment or an energy audit or a training, I ask one question from them: why do you need this service? So they always get stuck here. And they often, when we are sitting in the first meeting introducing each other, and ask them, why do you want to conduct a training on energy management? Or why do you want to conduct an energy audit? And they start thinking at that time, oh, we've never thought about it. Why do we want it? Many times they want it because they saw that another fellow factory conducted an energy audit, and this owner was sitting in the club and talking about, oh, we did an energy audit, and we saved energy. And then they thought, yeah, it is a fashion of getting an energy audit done, so we should also have an energy audit done, because they speak less about saving energy, but they talk more about the marketing aspect of this, that they say, we told XYZ customer that we're doing energy project, and the customer was very happy. So they have mixed thoughts in their mind. It is very, very important to ask why to start with. So this is always the first question: why are you asking for it? Why do you need an energy audit? What kind of a need assessment have you conducted in your factory that you have asked us to conduct an energy audit? It also depends on which role we are. So I will briefly talk about the market situation of consultant as well here. So if there is a consultant, a consulting company which is a small consulting company, or a consulting company who are not who recently did not have projects and they're looking for projects because they have to pay salaries of their employees, for example, and they are eager to get some projects, the customer sense that, and that is when they don't give us a lot of room to negotiate or discuss, and they just want us to get energy audit done. And sometimes the energy auditors who go there also have this in mind: oh, I need this project. So if I ask too many questions, this company might run away and they might not get an energy audit done. So this is sometimes which I have seen happening with those consultants who start with. But with those who are established companies, they do not just jump into the projects. They always ask why. And I never move forward. Sometimes I spent 2 or 3 months before the contract is signed with the top management, asking why. And sometimes they are not even able to answer this question for a month or so. And they sometimes say, okay, we will discuss with each other and we'll get back to you. And if they are serious, I can guarantee that they will get back to you with answer. And if they are not serious, they will never come back to you. And sometimes I say thank you to myself and to everybody that this company did not come back to me because they were not really serious. So judging their seriousness is the first point. Now comes towards how to convince them. Obviously, we should not let the customer go. And one aspect of our businesses is to earn profit, but another aspect is to help others in improving their situations. So if we see that there is some room of discussion, we should also guide them in finding answer to this question of why do they need it. So while guiding them, we sometimes need to talk about the global issues, global requirements, customer requirements, but also talking about their cost benefits of energy efficiency improvements, talking about success stories, case studies. Obviously, you do that as well. So this is also an important aspect. Important thing is that what scope do we have in that factory? Is our scope only limited to energy audit, or are we discussing their implementation of an energy management system? So I can tell you that if in the beginning we start talking about budget for setting up an energy management system, majority CEOs will not give us the budget. They will give us the budget when we have a phased program. So whenever you go to a factory, speak to the top management about energy management system, do not start about providing big budget for energy management system. This works sometimes as well, frankly. If these are large industrial groups who already have had experiences of setting up different management systems like 9,000 or 14,000, 45,000 or 8,000, for example. If they have different kind of systems already in place, you might ask them about their budget that they have set up for setting up the energy management system right in the first meeting. And I can tell you that more than 50% of the time, they will have a figure in mind if it is a big, large group. But if it is a small company, one factory owner or one or two factories, small size companies, they might not have this kind of thinking, frankly, because they would be struggling on costs. They are not expanding very quickly at the time, so they might not have management systems. So with these companies, we have to first of all understand our client and then set our strategy. So if it is a client which does not have experience with management systems, start with improving their energy efficiency first, reducing their energy cost with low hanging fruits, and right in the beginning present them a phased model. So phase one is where we improve your bottom line, okay, so reducing cost. Phase two, asking, now since we have reduced the cost, do we want to maintain it, improve it, or do you just want to leave it here? So it is very, very important that we do not leave it here. So that is what we need to convince to the top management, that since we are reducing the cost, we must do it in a sustainable manner. So in the next stage, we talk about standardization. We talk about SOPs and setting up procedures for whatever we have done. So for example, developing a small team, setting some terms of reference for that team, and how this team would be working. So start with this kind of a change management team thing in the beginning, and then gradually lead them towards the management systems. Obviously, when they go towards the management system, that is when they need data. And to have data, they need to have monitoring system, meters in place. So start with those energy sources and those energy uses which are significant. So one mistake that the management system consultants do is that they tell the company that you have to install 100 meters to monitor everything. But this is not what ISO 50001 is asking for, or any other, even HIG facility environment module is not asking to monitor each and every energy use. Obviously, we have to monitor each and every energy source, but not all the energy uses have to be monitored. So we have to identify which are the energy uses that are significant, which are the bigger ones. So we need to monitor those in the beginning. So what I do is that when I see that the management is not very forward looking towards investments, I tell them that first of all, you have to start monitoring at a departmental level. So I ask them to put one energy meter in the dyeing department, one energy meter in the finishing department, and one energy meter in the compressed air department, for example. And then I asked them to put one compressed air flow meter in one of the biggest areas where they have biggest compressed air uses. One steam flow meter in the dyeing and one steam flow meter in the finishing department. So this is where I start with. And then slowly and gradually they see the benefit of it. And then once they become addict of having the data, that is when they start striving for more data. So energy management system is not a one month project. Setting up an energy management system in one factory is at least 1 year project, at least. Where that is when the top management is showing commitment. But if the top management is not very committed, but they are, let's say, 50% committed, you might have to spend more than one year, maybe 2 years in that factory. But for that, it is important that we set up right expectations in the beginning. So I will repeat, number one, assess their needs. So know your customer. Who is your customer, what they need, and why do they need it? Number one. Number two, set a strategy. So understand their psyche, what their psyche is. Are they forward looking? Are they willing to take steps towards improving the situation? Or are they only looking at cost? So if they're only looking at cost, take them towards the baby steps. If they are forward looking and they really want to achieve something, tell them that we will have parallel phases. Number one phase is that we will set up a team in your company, and this team will conduct an energy assessment with us. We will not do it in silo. We will do it with your team, and we will develop your team, and your team will develop energy management system. So take them through the change management process rather than a cost or improvement driven process. So we have to see what kind of a customer we're dealing with and set up the strategy. But again, coming to point zero, if you see that the management is not committed at all, I would suggest that if you can afford, run away from this client. But obviously, it is important to try to convince them first. And obviously, running away is not what we want. This was only on a lighter note. Ensuring compliance, that is also one thing that we should expect from an energy management. As I said in the beginning, if we develop a smart energy management system of very wisely, it will also ensure compliance with different kind of requirements that we are bombarded with by different kind of actors, government and customers and international regulations and export market regulations, for example. Then traceability is very important. So traceability of energy and greenhouse gas emissions in the processes as well as in the supply chain. So we need to know what kind of energy sources do we have, which are our biggest emissions, how can we reduce those emissions, and what is the total volume of emissions that our product is causing also in the supply chain. So what are our suppliers producing, how much emissions do they have for our products, and then where is our product going, how is it ending up in the landfills, or is it ending up in the recycling, or where is it ending. This is also important to know if we are working on sustainability. Then embedding the energy management system into organizational culture. If it is not part of the culture, if people are not talking about energy management on their own, I can tell you that this is not sustainable. So setting up a business case, I will summarize that the focus is systemic. So when whatever we do, be it taking small steps, or be it advising big companies directly jumping into energy management system, setting up teams, setting up their procedures, and in parallel improving the energy performance, whatever path we take, uh, we should do it systematically. So the focus should be systemic, and around that, we should also look at the economic efficiency, the organizational aspects. For example, the organizational aspects of energy management would be that we have a good working environment. We have, for example, all the hot areas are covered so that people cannot touch them. We have a good temperature control. So these are, and people are happy working with this company, for example. So these are the aspects that we also need to look at. Then the environmental performance, what are our emissions? So these are the 4 wins that the companies should look at. So that number 1, we build up whatever we do in a systematic way. So doing it a systematic way means that we're doing it in a sustainable manner. Then we are improving our costs, so economic efficiency. Then we are making our stakeholders, our employees, and our people happy, providing them safe working environment. And then environmental performance is that we're reducing emissions, improving the global climate, contributing towards the global climate goals, and also contributing towards our society and not polluting the environment we're working in. What it provides us cost savings, increased productivity, reduces the quantities of waste, reduces the air emissions. Also, risks to health and safety are reduced, and capacity of implementation is improved. That is what comes from the systemic focus. If people are trained properly, they will be able to implement on their own. And talking about the global perspective, compliance, conformance, integration of different systems, profitability, providing us compatibility in the market. That is what we can get. So this is how the energy management business case is built. Integration into sustainable production. So this is one framework, one of the many framework that we look at, which talks about different topics, for example, energy efficiency, water efficiency, material efficiency. So we are in the beginning, the green columns are the resource efficiency part, what is happening inside the factory. The blue columns are the environmental performance, so emissions, and the yellow columns are about management practices. So sustainability practices that we start improving our energy, water, and material efficiency, that is reducing our use and maximizing the alternate energy sources or alternate water supplies, sustainability, managing inventory and procurement, for example. Then controlling and reducing our environmental flows and reducing our carbon emissions, and then effectively managing our environmental systems, improving our environmental decision making. As I said earlier, that rather than jumping from one energy source to another energy source, we should think strategically. How do we want to move forward? Good sustainable companies do not jump too often from one source to another source and then another source to another source. They try to gradually shift from unsustainable sources towards sustainable sources. And when I say sustainable, there are multiple aspects of sustainability. One aspect of sustainability definitely is environmental performance, but another aspect is energy security. So we cannot expect a company to move towards 100% renewable energy when the renewable energy is not providing them energy during the night times, for example. So imagine if your factory is located in an area where you don't have a lot of wind and you do not have efficient energy storage systems at the moment. you cannot hold your factory on solar photovoltaics, because solar photovoltaics provide us energy only 4 hours or 3.5 hours in a day. Rest of the day, they provide either less energy or they do not provide any energy at all. And if we have a factory which runs 24 hours, for example, we need to have very, very large energy storages to ensure that our factory runs in the night time as well. And I can tell you that these energy storages are not very efficient at the moment and also need a lot of space. And these kind of storage systems might need even more space than the factory itself takes. So that is why the factories don't have that option. To ensure that the factories have to move gradually towards it. So this is an important aspect we need to keep in mind. So sometimes factories switch towards a fuel source which has high carbon emissions, but this source provides them energy security. It provides them sustainable energy supply. So this is also one aspect of sustainability that we need to keep in mind. Don't only look at emissions. This is one big mistake that the environmentalists do, is that they only look at emissions while making strategies, while making country policies. We must also look at energy security, which is even bigger problem than the carbon emissions at the moment. So if we don't have sustainable or reliable energy supplies, we cannot even operate our systems. And if we cannot operate our systems, how can we care about environment at that time? Because factories have the main purpose of a factory is to generate profits. That is, as energy auditors or environmentalists, we must always keep in mind. So I was having a meeting with a brand few days ago. So we had a brand. In that meeting, we had an international non-government organization who are working on improving sustainability in the garment supply chain. We had a fabric factory as well, and we were having this discussion around the energies and renewable energy, and they were the brand was asking the factory to switch from fossil fuels towards renewable sources, and especially their focus was biomass. And when I told them that in Pakistan, biomass availability is very low, although we are an agricultural country, biomass is used in lot of other sources than energy. And there is a very, very big domestic energy market for biomass. That is, when you go towards our northern side, where they do not have natural gas supplies, they keep on gathering biomass whole summers. So they have normally a summer of only 3 or 4 months. So all these 3 or 4 months, they keep on piling wood and biomass in their houses. They have very, very big warehouses in their houses where they keep on piling biomass. And the whole winters, biomass is their lifeline. So if they don't have biomass available in winters, they will die of winters. So factories do not have biomass available. So that is the reason factory, then they do not have another sustainable source available. So it is important, number one, to stay in business. Number two, to have profitability. And once you ensure these two steps, that is when you can start talking about, okay, now how do we ensure that we are also environmentally sustainable? But there can be another track. So if there is a company which has big investments, then they can start thinking strategically right from the design part, that they can start talking about, okay, now we are building a company, we have a lot of investment, how do we ensure that we are sustainable, environmentally responsible as well, right from the design part. So there are different paths that the companies can take depending on how much investment do they have, how much experience do they have, and which kind of environment they're living in. So I will reiterate that when we are talking about sustainability, please do not only look at emissions, but also look at energy security and also look at what kind of a situation this company is working in at the moment. And then we can gradually take them towards low emission sources as well. Talking about Higg facility environment module is a reporting mechanism. As I explained earlier, I will quickly go back few slides where I showed you about this. Remember, we talked about Sustainable Apparel Coalition. So Sustainable Apparel Coalition has developed this module called Facility Environment Module, which has 7 sections, as we called them in the beginning, or small steps. Then level 2 is regarding setting targets, and level 3 is regarding sustainability. So the energy and greenhouse gas emission section is what I'm going to present to you now. What factories have to do is that every year they have to answer all these questions, and for answering all these questions, they have to fill in their responses. They have to fill some data as well. This data is then verified by a third-party verifier who comes to the factory, spends 2-3 days there, and goes through each of their responses on site, and then marks if their answer was valid or not valid, or partially true or fully true. So there are different levels. There are different questions. In level 1, we have 3 questions. Number 1, tracking all energy sources, where they have to select different sources. They have to select which sources they are tracking. They have to enter their names or select them from the drop down. For example, electricity, coal, natural gas, or purchase steam, for example. So they have to select multiple sources that they track. Then level 2 is track and measure energy use from these sources. So they have to enter data of how much energy are we getting from each of these sources, and they have to enter this in one common value. But if they do not enter in a common value, the tool automatically converts all these into megajoules. So they can enter, for example, steam they can enter in purchased tons, coal they can enter in kilograms, electricity they can enter in kilowatt hours, natural gas they can enter in cubic meters, for example. And then the tool automatically converts all the energy sources into megajoules and automatically calculates their greenhouse gas emissions based on these sources. Then the tool asks them to standardize their methods and frequency to track each of the energy sources. So they have to select what is our method of tracking. Are we tracking these sources from invoices? Are we estimating them, or are we measuring them through meters? And if they are estimating, they have to explain how they are estimating it as well. So what are the formulas they're using in calculating or measuring this source? In level 2, they have to establish their baselines. They have to identify which are the energy intensive processes or operations. ISO 50001 calls these as significant energy uses. So which are the biggest or the top energy uses? Then they have to set targets for improving energy uses. So they have to select what are their targets, how much percentage do they want to reduce from each of the sources, and how much do they want to improve in each of the uses they have identified. Then they have to set targets for greenhouse gas emissions for scope 1 and scope 2, that is direct energy uses that they're doing. For example, if they are burning fuels inside the factory, these are called scope 1. If they have vehicles owned by the factories, these also come into scope 1. If they are purchasing electricity from grid, or if they are purchasing steam from some other company or a sister company, if they are purchasing hot water or cold water. So if they are purchasing converted energy, not the main energy source, not the fuel, but the converted energy from somewhere else, then it comes into scope 2. So then the emissions are calculated automatically. Then they have to set their reduction targets for these emissions as well. Level 2 also asks them to develop their implementation plans. As as we also discussed at DN also said that we have to set demand side targets as well. Hoa also said that we have to set demand side targets. So this is where the implementation plan comes in. So first we tell them what our targets are, and then we tell them how are we going to achieve it. And then a last question in level 2 asks if we are able to demonstrate continual improvement. That means every year the factories are putting in their data in HIG facility environment module, as we shortly call it FEM. So the tool looks at if they have every year done an improvement, or year on year they are not doing an improvement. If they are doing an improvement every year, then the tool allows you to say yes, we are able to demonstrate continual improvement compared to baseline. Level 3 requirement is not mandatory, so they get a score if they are able to say yes to all the questions and provide right data to all the questions in level 1 and level 2. The factories get 100 marks out of 100 for the energy and greenhouse gas section. A level 3, if they are not able to say yes, they say no or partial yes or not applicable, these kind of answers, they do not get any deduction in marks. So in level 3, it asks them to calculate their scope 3 emissions. What is a scope 3 emission? Scope 3 emission means emissions caused by their subcontractors, emissions caused by the life cycle of their product. So when the product goes towards the customer, it travels in the containers, in the airships, in the ships, and then it goes to the customer. Then how many years the customer uses this, how many washes does it require, and then how does it end up in the waste, for example. All this life cycle costing and life cycle energy accounting has to be done. That is when a factory is able to calculate their scope 3 emissions. And then level 3 also asks them to set science-based targets. So science-based targets is another organization where they have to pay for membership, and then they have to set up their targets. It's a long process of 18 months to 2 years of setting up targets. Even brands, not all brands have set up their science-based targets. So these level 3 requirements are not mandatory at the moment for any factory. But if they do it, brands like it very much. And then they say, okay, this is a very, very sustainable supplier and we should do it. But anyways, they had the level 1 and level 2 are which they need to focus on to start with. And you can see, as I said in the beginning, the energy management system gathers everything together and puts them into one system. These requirements in level 1 and level 2 are same requirements, just different words, which are also put up there in the ISO 50001. Then there are targets set by international buyers. So decarbonization is one target, that they want to eliminate coal and other fossil fuel uses in the whole supply chain. And some brands want to eliminate coal by 2025. Some brands do not talk specifically about coal, but they talk about increasing renewable energy and the energy mix. Some talk about reducing greenhouse gas emissions across supply chain. For example, Levi's have set up target for 2025 that across their supply chain, they want to reduce 70% of water use and want to introduce 40% renewable energy into the electrical energy mix. So this is what their target is. And this target has also been given to their suppliers.